So I sold my Sigma 24-70 f2.8 and purchased the LUMIX S Pro 24-70 f2.8. Here's why. Now this is definitely not a review of this lens. This lens has been reviewed to death. It's actually a pretty old lens. And so I'm not gonna, go through all the specs and everything. There's plenty of videos about that. But this video is just a little bit more about why I decided to go with the S series, the LUMIX S Pro, and how it kind of fits into my workflow. And I do want to say this as well, like the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 is a fantastic lens. I have no beef with that lens whatsoever. In fact, for the price, I highly recommend that lens. It's a fantastic lens. But these are just a few reasons why I decided to go with the LUMIX. But before I get into those, here's just a few test shots that I took while I was out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. So the first reason I decided to purchase the LUMIX 24-70 is just to get fully into the LUMIX ecosystem for professional work. I would say the majority of the work I can do is with a 24-70 and a 70-200. So probably my next purchase is the LUMIX S Pro 70-200 f2.8. Right now I have the f4 version of that lens, which is still a great lens. I would like to have just a little bit faster of a lens with this 70-200, but having that f2.8 on a lens like this, and then the f2.8 24-70, I think pretty much everything that I can do with a 2-camera setup for professional work, that would cover a majority of what I need. Now, like kind of this setup that I have over here, I mean, this is a lot of what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of interviews, starting to get into a lot more of like podcast style work. So at this point, it would probably be like 2 S5 2Xs for professional work. But having that 24-70 and then the 70-200 f2.8, from what I see and from what I do right now, I mean, that's going to pretty much cover everything. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm still like not going to use other lenses, right? Like the S primes, the 1.8 S primes for the LUMIX ecosystem, those are fantastic primes, and you can do a majority of your work. Every once in a while, there's opportunities to, toss on a cinema lens as well and just kind of get a little bit more of a vintage look on some, use cases or some productions. But for what I'm doing, the type of B-roll that I shoot, the type of interviews that I shoot, a lot for websites and social media, I'm not doing a ton of like, short feature films or anything like that. I think a majority of what I can do is with that 24-70 and 70-200 and just being in one ecosystem. Now, I just want to re-emphasize that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Sigma 24-70. I do like the build of the Panasonic Pro S version a little bit better than the Sigma. It just feels a little bit better in the hand. But there's a couple things about the Panasonic that kind of drive me crazy. Like the ring, for the focus is a little bit janky, a little bit loose, I feel like. And the Panasonic feels just a little bit, I don't know, maybe just a little bit more plasticky. Is plasticky a word? I'm not totally sure. But I do like the fact with these zoom lenses, how they kind of pop out at the end once you kind of change focal lengths. The Sigma, I felt like just really shot out a long way, and I didn't necessarily love that about the Sigma lens. Now, the Panasonic does shoot out a little bit, but not quite as far. And so even if you're on like a gimbal or something, there's not as big of a weight difference with that. But I just like how the LUMIX S Pro 24-70 feels on the camera, especially the S5 IIX. So yeah, the biggest thing for me is just getting into one ecosystem for professional work. Now for this type of content that I'm making right here, I'm actually shooting on the Sigma 16 to 28 millimeter, and that is a fantastic content lens at f2.8, and I think I will probably keep that lens on a camera. I'm shooting on the S9 right now. So when that 16 to 28 is on the S9, you actually have that hybrid zoom that actually takes it up to about a 43 millimeter. So you can get a pretty good reach with this lens, and it's a fantastic content lens that I think that I'm gonna keep using on here because I love the f2.8 option on there through all focal ranges. But the main thing for me is the same ecosystem for professional work with the LUMIX S5 IIX. 24-70, 70-200, which will be, my next purchase. And then a majority of what I do is 2-cam setups, 2-cam interviews, and I think that's gonna be the perfect clean version for a quick and easy setup and teardown. So if you're looking for a recommendation between the Sigma 24-70 or the LUMIX S Pro 24-70, in my honest opinion, 100% being truthful, you cannot go wrong with either one. So you have the full support of the L-mount alliance with Sigma. So, the autofocus and everything's gonna work great with the Sigma. And I would even say that the autofocus might be just a little bit faster on the Sigma than on the Panasonic. So, but if you're looking for a recommendation, honestly, 100%, you cannot go wrong with either lens. I think what it comes down to is your budget. If your budget is just a little bit tighter, you might want to go with that Sigma because it's really, $800? So I don't have the prices off the top of my head, but I mean, it's significantly less expensive than the Panasonic, and there's even a newer version of the 24-70 for the L-mount. So that is something, very substantial to consider when it comes down to it, is the budget that you're on. But truly a side-by-side comparison, which I have a video about, there's not much difference in these lenses. It just comes down to, for me, what I want in an ecosystem for professional work. And I know that I keep saying that, ecosystem, professional work, all that stuff. But really, that is the deciding factor for me. And we all have our different reasons for, choosing different lenses, different cameras, whatever you're using, just make awesome things. That's all that really matters. Try to make a little bit of money with it if you can, but we don't need to get caught up in this lens versus that lens. Yes, it's fun to make those comparisons for YouTube and kind of see the differences in all those. But when it comes down to it, pick a lens, pick a camera, and just start shooting. Speaking of starting to shoot, I have to clean up all of this mess in the studio and get ready for a shoot in here tomorrow where I will be using the 24-70 f2.8 for interviews. But I do need to make sure it gets a lot cleaner in here. So let me know your thoughts on the LUMIX 24-70 millimeter versus the Sigma 24-70 millimeter. And like I said, I did shoot a comparison video with my buddy Jonah, who at the time, he had the Panasonic, I had the Sigma, and we just did some silly little tests with it and tested out autofocus and things like that. But if you want to check that out, that's popping up on your screen right here. But in the meantime, if you want more LUMIX content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I've got a ton of LUMIX content, more LUMIX content that'll be coming out, but I always appreciate you being here, checking out the videos, checking out the channel. I will see you in the next video.